right. Hello and welcome back to the I Didn't Read Your Book podcast. I am Lutch, your host, and welcome back for another episode. I am excited for this one. Today, we are going to be talking with Darshaun McAway about his book, Girlfriend versus Wife Duties. The cover seems like it has a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek I told you so kind of feel, being written by a man and having the lipstick and just very simplistic, and then just this versus that. I based on previous episodes, I'm gonna guess that that's not at all what the book is, but that's the first thing I see when I look at it. So let's dive right into reading the back of the book. Girlfriend versus wife duties. In today's world, romantic relationships have become a lot less clear-cut than they were even 20 years ago, and many modern women find themselves confused about not only where they are romantically, but where they want to be and who they want to be there with. Girlfriend versus wife duties explores the difference between a wife and a girlfriend and why someone might choose to be one or the other, or transition between the two. In witty and frank style, this book encourages a return to classic values such as self-respect and the woman as the heart of a family, but without judging modern dating conventions. What a wonderful resource for both men and women. I'll be the judge of that. Okay. We're in. I was like, wow, that's a lot to put on the back of the book. This is a testimonial. What a wonderful resource for both men and women. Thank you thank you so much for writing this wonderful work of art. From Michelle Stone. Darshaun, you did it again. A brilliant visual, but really informative for everyone who's thinking about marriage. From Jessica Parker. Any book that first makes you mad enough to the point where you have to ask yourself why you are mad has got something going for it. Darshaun McAway holds no punches when he addresses the reasons why women move in or out of girlfriend or wife roles in relationships, and gives you a clear-cut understanding, if you read with an open mind, of what to do to get in the position you want to be in. I wish I would have had this book 20 years ago. It would have saved me a lot of time in the School of Hard Knocks. Girlfriend for 6 years, wife for 14, and that is by Lisa Kandar. So those last three were testimonials. So I guess very simply put, it's just it sounds like it's going to be exactly what it sounds like. I like that he has put out there from the get-go that the intention is not to shame modern dating, quote unquote, and that the intention that's not the intention, and that that he personally has he personally wants a return to the classic roles, but that he's not sounds like he's not necessarily pushing that, but it seems pretty straightforward. So without further ado, let's bring in Darshaun. All right, and welcome, Darshaun. Is it McAway or McAway? McAway? Yeah. Okay, Darshaun McAway.
Yeah, McAway.
Awesome. So yes, we've just read the back of your book, and I love it. And I think I have a question already, but I think before I want to preface it with probably you anticipated this. And I'm wondering if that's why you added some of the testimonials on the back. Because the first thing I thought was some girl's going to pick this up and be like, who the hell is Darshaun? And why does he think he could tell me what the difference between that and that? So, and I mean, I saw all of the testimonials were from women. So, but also, there's a bunch of women who love Kevin Samuels and a bunch of women who don't. So what do you say to the women who pick up this book and like, you're some guy? What do you know?
Well, see, this is the clever thing about it. See, this book came out 9 years ago, and 9 years ago today, it's still been selling. And there hasn't been a woman that I've ever had in conversation that says, "Who do you think you are? How long have you been married? How many kids do you have?" And all this type of thing, right? So when I first wrote the book, it came from a place of a lot of women asking me, "Hey, what do you think the difference is between a girlfriend and a wife?" And at first, I couldn't answer. I was like, I don't know, a wife has kids type of deal, you know. But then when I was putting the book together, I said, well, let me reach out to some women that I know are married and find out like what's the difference. And the first person I started with was my mom. And my mom told me the difference between a girlfriend and a wife is a girlfriend can just pick up and just walk away. She can do whatever she wants. But a wife, she has to go through a little bit more paperwork, a little bit more ties. Because typically speaking, when you get married, your wife isn't going to leave you the next day. You're already married for a couple of years, but your girlfriend, she could be with you for a few years and say, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. But your wife, it more so goes like, hey, what did I do wrong? What's going on between us? Can we work this out? And she says, well, no, I don't want to work it out with you. So now you got to go through the paperwork. And if you have kids involved, it's a lot more trauma than one would think. So when I put the book together, I was trying to make sure women understood that a girlfriend has a lot of leisure, but a wife, she has way more commitment.
So leisure versus commitment. Gotcha. And so start, what did your aside from, your mom, who wants, that, which is a great place to start. If you, if obviously if you didn't have a great mom, it wouldn't be a great place to start. But if you thought that was a great place to start, I'm going to assume that you had a great mom, and now that with the great book. So that's obviously, if you don't have a great mom, that's not what I'm talking about. But you specifically, obviously that's a great place to start. And so where did you go from there?
So I ended up talking to like 20 different couples, married couples, but I really focused on the women because as a man coming up, I was trying to find out like what's the difference for myself. So when I write this book, I wanted to make sure that I'm talking in conversation to the young lady who's going to pick it up. But I also wanted men to pick it up so they can understand that, okay, I'm not supposed to be putting all this pressure on a girlfriend or a wife, especially if your parents get sick and you say, hey, I got to move my dad in. And your girlfriend goes, well, I don't want to take care of your dad. Now, if it's your wife will go, all right, well, I'm really not, let's work something out, but she's going to do it.
Right.
A girlfriend can say, hey, listen, I'm out of here. It's been nice. It's been great having the booty calls, but that's not what I signed up for. Your wife, on the other hand, she becomes a daughter-in-law and you the same as a son-in-law. So you have to step into that family world. So when I was conducting those interviews, most of the women were saying that that's the biggest thing that you're going to have to understand, that you're bringing in somebody else's side of the family. You're bringing in somebody else's independence. So you got to find out how to mesh the two and make sure that it works.
Interesting. So you said people were often asking you the difference. So nobody's ever asked me what the difference between a girlfriend and a wife is. So what have you been doing before the book? And I guess since in the past 9 years, that would put you in a position where people would think to ask you that. I mean, I'm sure I would have an answer, but I don't think anybody would necessarily take it that seriously.
Well, so like throughout my life, man, when I hit about 23, I'm 38. From 23 up until now, I've carried a nice long stride of keeping myself pretty balanced and well put together. And most of the time when I would speak to women, they want to go out on dates, they want to hang out, they can tell that I'm a well-balanced guy. So they would more so be interviewing me, asking me, what do I want from them? And saying like, hey, what's the difference between a girlfriend and a wife? And at the time, with me not being married at the time, I would say, well, a wife is probably supposed to do this, which I was probably wrong on, and a girlfriend is probably supposed to do this. But they were only saying that to me so they can get with me, right? So when I learned that, okay, these girls are just catering to me, and that's cool, but no one's really showing me that I want to get on one knee and propose. That was the biggest thing. A lot of women don't understand that. What are you doing to make a guy wanting to say, hey, listen, I'm gonna put this thing together, I'm gonna get on one knee, and I'm gonna propose to you, and show the world that out of all of the women in the world, and all the places I can go, I chose to be with you.
And why do you think that message is so? That seems so. It seems like it should be obvious to women. But of course, I'm a man, and that it's obvious to me because I would be the beneficiary of somebody asking what they can do for me. But as it's often said, women decide who have sex, and men decide who get married. So why do you think that women don't really have that concept of what do I bring to the table? As much as you would hope.
That's a great question. From my studies, man, and talking to people, I just realized that a lot of people just haven't been brought up in an environment where they see two people working together, right? Um, and that's going to be very difficult moving forward because in a relationship, you can't look at it as someone's always like telling you what to do and dictating you. You have to find out, hey, this is this person's weak point. This is their strong point. Here's my weak point and my strong point. How do we become one? Because that's what marriage is really about. You become one, you become tied in, and then you pull in your family, and then you grow from there. So a lot of women, so not I'm gonna say most women just haven't seen a functioning relationship when it comes to co-working together. It's not like it's, and I want to be careful when I say this because I'm not looking at it as work, but your marriage becomes your job of your life. It becomes the most important thing. And I hate to use the metaphor of working with coworkers, but when you go to a co-working environment, you're more friendly with your coworkers than you are with your spouse sometimes. And it's so weird how people don't realize that, hey, I need to be doing better in my relationship because the person in my relationship is the person that's going to be taking care of me when I break a leg or when I dislocate my shoulder. But we don't think about that. And that's why I wanted to put this book together. I wanted people to think about another person's time. Don't waste somebody else's time being their girlfriend and you don't want to be their a wife or vice versa or a husband. And just a side note, a lot of same-sex couples read this book as well because the way I put it, it was a clever conversation to let people know, hey, here's your opportunity to get to know Darshaun. This is what Darshaun thinks, and I know this will work because when you get into a relationship, you're just two independent people. You cannot get away from learning how to communicate with one another. You will never get away from learning how to talk to people. You may not agree, but you have to speak with people in order to coexist in this world.
Gotcha. So I mean, in 30,000 feet, what really is the what would because again you mentioned I like how you frame it that it's not like we're saying you should do this, you should do that. It sounds like it's more of if you want this result, then this. If you want this result, then that. Which is similar to the message of again I'm sure you're familiar with Kevin Samuels, and he for those who don't know, he does a call-in show with women, and it's mainly focused on quote unquote high value men, people and women who are searching for that. And it's typical that women are all concentrating their interest at the tallest guys and the richest guys and the most handsome guys. I'm 5'4", so I'm not in that category, but maybe that's why nobody's asking me about the same thing they're asking you about. But the he will often bring up how the media has this strong independent women thing, that narrative that really has seeped into every aspect of our society, I think. And while we absolutely want women to be autonomous and to be able to take care of themselves if they need, and never be, at the whim of a man who can just throw them away. Of course, that's not what we want, but it seems like that message has just taken on an entirely different meaning, and it's like that the men are disposable. Do you agree that that's how either that's what the messaging leads to, and that many women are taking on that messaging?
So I agree with the fact that life is changing how women look at men. Our men disposable? No. And good looking for Kevin Samuels. I'm familiar with this content. Good looking for him, advocating for people to get married, right? So am I. If you want to get married, I don't push it on people, but if you want to, good for you. If you don't, kind of stay out of the way and don't waste anybody's time. But when you talk about the independent portion, there is a chapter in the book titled Where You Go Wrong, Miss Independent. And what I realized about that is so many women have put their job and their education in a place where, hey, I got this and that, I don't need you. And it's like, okay, a man has the same thing. So you can look at it and say, well, why does he need you if he has all this, right?
Exactly.
So what you do is say, okay, well, since I got this high education and since I got all this money and he has the same thing, again, how do we make this work? How do I not get in the way with my ego? Listen, there are plenty of men in marriages that have a high ego, but they still have to be romantic and soft portion with their wives, right? And the same thing with women who are lawyers and judges. They have a very strong ego, but they still got to say, you know what? That's my husband. I got to follow what he says. She realizes his strength and his weaknesses, and she's not trying to be combative. But in today's time, which I'm telling you, man, this book was so cleverly written. It was just solely a conversation saying, hey, try not to get in your own way when you find somebody that's good for you. You see what I'm saying? And I have a little thing against hypergamy because if you go in leaning financially, if you go in leaning financially in a relationship, let me tell you what's going to happen. And this is throughout time. What you're going to find is, let's say you get married to your significant other, and a month from now, that person loses their limbs. Then how much money, how much of that hypergamy, all that money, that status, how much does it mean to you now? When you now have to go to work because he's out of a job. Okay, yes, you got some insurance, you're going to pay the medical bills, but he can no longer work. It's just impossible. So what do you do? So I try to make sure people focus on people and not how much money that person is making. Because when you go in looking at higher status, and I understand it, but when you go in looking at higher status, let me tell you what happens in your life. It's this thing called like a little bit of karma comes rolling around your way, and something tragic is going to happen. And then you're going to say, well, how much is this hypergamy relationship worth now? And I had asked this one lady a question. I say, hey, listen, if you get married and your husband loses his legs, are you going to leave him? She said yes. So that wasn't a real love. That wasn't a real marriage.
Right. And real quick
that
sorry to interrupt. Just for those who aren't aware, if do you want to explain a little bit about how hypergamy, if they haven't heard of, this term before?
So in a nutshell, hypergamy is a person of higher stature, higher status that you look at to take care of you and provide for you. I guess I'm gonna say really on either side, male or female, because women are, they have a whole bunch of status as well, but mainly it points towards the men. If you have a higher status and prestige, you're the person that a person of a lower caliber is looking at to get with, because that lower caliber person wants to be taken care of. And again, you have to be careful when you do that, because even if that person has prestige, people who have prestige, they get sick and they die as well.
Right. And it's a very, it's not anything that, I know you said specifically that you were, you had a thing against it, but I don't think that you're saying that you think it's bad overall. And just again, to make it clear, just that, hypergamy is usually while it does go in both genders. And again, with anything dating, I'm always going to be speaking from just a straight cisgendered male. So plug in anything that is relevant to you. But while a dude who's got money will have no problem even, being casual with the girl or the barista at Starbucks, or somebody who works at Target or something. But even the girl who works, even that girl who just, not that there's anything wrong with that, but just in the dating world and the way that we place value on things through this lens of hypergamy, the inverse is not the case. A guy at working behind a desk is not going to get with some fancy lawyer or bank executive or something like that. And it happens. I have I'm a private dog trainer, and I have a client where it's a couple, and it's a dude who I don't even know what he does. I don't even know if he works. But his wife is a high level attorney. But in the home, it's I mean, obviously I don't see them that often, and I'm only there when we're working with the dog. But it's pretty clear that she looks at him as that the status she has in her career, she can separate as her status in the relationship. And I think, again, that might be a part of the hypergamy, the problem with hypergamy that we have, again, on both sides, but specifically with women, just because of how they're always looking to date up more so than men, of equating their monetary and career value with that of their value in a relationship.
Right. I agree. I think one of the best ways for people to start attacking relationships is to kind of almost starting from a middle school, high school, college standpoint. If you find that person that you're kind of going to school with in that realm of finances with, by you two, finances meaning by you two being broke, you'll end up growing together. But a lot of times what we see is when we're in school with people, with our classmates, we don't see them as the person we want to end up marrying because we started thinking of hypergamy. And that was part of the issue I had when I was writing my book was, okay, I didn't marry any of the girls from my high school. I dated them and I stayed with them for a little bit, but I didn't see myself marrying them because I just wanted to have like a whole bunch of fun. And that's going to go across the board with a lot of people. A lot of people are going to want to have a lot of fun. They're going to have a lot of sex, and they're going to find out, okay, now that the sex is over with, okay, which one of these men and women do I marry up, right? But when you get to that point, how well is your mental state going into somebody else's life, going into their 24 hours? And that was the biggest issue I was trying to explain to people. Hey, you're coming into someone's 24-hour space. They have 24 hours in one day. What are you contributing to it, or what are you trying to take away? And so when I think of hypergamy, I think of people taking away from the person who got to a higher social status versus a person saying, hey, I've been with this person when we were like freaking, 17 years old, and I'm adding to this person's life. And if he or she doesn't make it to a financial status, I'm okay with this person because I love them. And a lot of times, just leaning back on what you said, what you mentioned about Kevin Samuels, what you hear from his show is women wanting to take away from the person of the higher status. So in that case, he goes, okay, well, that man that's at this caliber making millions of dollars a year, okay, what are you going to add to that? And that question is so interesting because none of right. And no one can really answer the question because they don't see their own personal value as far as like adding, being a contribution and meshing together as one. All you're seeing is this person can take care of me financially, and what are we going to do as a family,
And so you mentioned earlier, ways that people trip themselves up. And is this type of thinking something along those lines?
Yeah.
What people, and can you expand on that a little bit more? Like what is it that people do way too often that trip themselves up in what would otherwise be a happily ever after?
Well, I mean, the trip up would be if you're focusing on, and when I'm talking, I'm speaking to both men and women in this conversation, and whether same-sex marriages or couples as well. What you're going to find yourself tripping yourself up in when you look at someone, when you look at someone's education and their financial status and saying, hey, I want to be with that person because of that, that's the trip up. Because I've personally witnessed growing up as a kid, I've seen people in my neighborhood, and I've seen the older man get with the younger woman. The older man gets hurt, catches a stroke, and now she's not into him anymore. I've seen this. She's not into that person anymore. The guy in the neighborhood, he gets a divorce. Everyone in the neighborhood corrals around him. And I had my dad and my mom helping this guy out. I had to cut his grass. So when you see stuff like that as a young man growing up, you go, okay, let me not focus on the most beautiful woman in the world, Maxim's magazine. It's good to have. Aspire for it if you want to.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, people who we see at that higher status, things happen to them and they fall hard. So I'm not
Mm.
saying don't go for it. I'm saying don't trick yourself so much as to focus on that one person and that's all you see. Because a lot of times, the man and the woman that's around you, when you're co-working space at your local grocery store, that's probably the best person for you.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you would agree that you're not saying that a person of higher status is you should stay away from. It's just that that shouldn't be the underlying thing. And to expand on it a little further, there is a definite real aspect to the practicality of wanting to be with someone who at least, even if they're not the quote unquote high value male who's going to be able to give you a lavish lifestyle, or the quintessential submissive little mouse of a woman who's just going to follow every little thing you say. That's, even if that's not necessarily the reality of it, there is a practicality in the success of the relationship if you don't have to worry about bills. And on the other side, if you're not fighting over every little thing, and that regardless of who it is, that there's one person who's more of the leader and the one person who is more of the follower, because one person is fills that role and they are complemented by the other role, as opposed to having two leaders or two followers, and either you're both doing nothing or you're both fighting all the time. Is that
Yeah.
am I in the right area?
Yeah. No, you are, and I touch on all of this in the book. And again, it's 6 chapters, and I touch on that. What I'm trying to teach people, and what I have taught people, is it's okay to aspire to have $100 million. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you get to $100 million, the people who have $100 million, they have a lot more issues than you do at $0. You got people trying to figure out how someone cannot steal from them. So when you look at that high value status, a high value man is looking at anybody who comes his way as, okay, which one of these people are trying to steal something from me? Who wants something from me? Why? Because I am higher value. I am of great resource to a lot of people. This is why listening to Kevin Samuels, or even just catching his show here and there, he makes a lot of sense. And what he's doing, which is very clever, what he's doing is bringing people back to a natural reality of saying, hey, the guy who's a blue collar worker, or even a white collar worker, whatever the case may be, that's a good guy. That guy's going to do something for you. The guy that's of this higher value, this higher stature, he's looking at everybody as a target against him. Who's going to steal from me today? I mean, I don't know how many people are millionaires that listen to your show, but I've had the success of getting my books and some of my merchandise placed inside of Walmart. And when people find out who you are, they look at you as, hey, this person can do this for me. I know you have X amount of dollars. Let me tell you how I'm going to spend your money. So when you listen to these conversations from women, you hear from them, well, what do you bring to the table? Me? Okay, well, what does me know how to do for me? Like, what can you do for me to make me expand? What are you going to do for me that's going to say, okay, listen, I want you to be a housewife. It's and it's so hard for women to grasp that. It's so hard for women to say, well, my value is me, yes, but what else do you add to me? And a lot of women fail to realize this. We just need, as men, and same-sex couples too, the other person just needs a helper. We just need you to help. So if I'm jacking up a tire and you see the car lean and you can help me jack up the car and get it off my hand, well, come over and help me. That's the kind of help that men need from women. That's the kind of help people need from people in general. Don't watch me struggle. Come assist me. I need your assistance.
And I want to ask you, I completely agree with that, everything you're saying. And I'm curious as to your perspective on this, because I'm 31. You said you were 38. So we're similar in age, but a lot happened in the time that, I was 18 to 25, and when you were 18 to 25, even in that short time. And so when I was that for me, Tinder was out and people knew about it, but it was just becoming that booming thing when I was in college. And so people were using it, but it was still relatively common for, college students to be hooking up with other broke college students, as you were mentioning before. And now it seems like the expectation of women, from what I can tell, on the whole, not all of them, but an issue in the general population of women is that while Susie May from Ohio might have she may have had the pick of the litter for in her county, uh, and maybe none of those guys are these millionaires, and they are really good, but just blue collar guys, just regular people. And now, what name did I say? Susie May or something like that. She
Yeah, yeah.
through the internet, through Instagram, through Tinder, through everything else, she has access to the hottest, richest guys in L.A. and New York and Miami and Dubai and all this stuff. And so, how how much of that did you see when you were in that specific age gap, that 18 to 25, and how much do you think that plays into this idea of fostering more hypergamy, and that idea of men are just disposable, and then on the other side, that from men looking at women, it's just like, all right, what are you taking from me? I think
Right.
both of those are hindrances to the benefit of relationships, even if they're going to be casual relationships. They're still a successful casual relationship versus something that goes down in flames. So either way, how do you one how did you see that it changed in those what were 7 years, and how much do you think it plays a part in where we are right now?
So when I was coming up during that time, in that gap that you mentioned, between our ages, in that time frame, I saw a lot of it happening because I grew up in Florida. I grew up in West Palm Beach, Florida. So I would frequent, excuse me, uh, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. So I saw a lot of the hypergamy, if you will, and I ended up dating and kind of being with some of the people who are in the adult industry, and me not knowing who they were, and just seeing a different lifestyle and understanding as a man, okay, I'm looking at this younger woman and she likes this caliber of a guy. So what am I going to do to become that caliber of a guy when I reach his age? So I grew up with that under my belt, looking at other men getting with younger girls, and the younger girls were with the guys who dressed nice, was in a Lamborghini, was in a Bentley, going to the five-star hotels. And I'm like, okay, so that's what women want. All right, let me become that guy, right?
Hmm.
Which is why I had started writing books, because I wanted to be of prestige. I wanted to be a higher value man, so I can say, all right, I get a chance to pick from the litter like those guys did. So I saw a lot of that coming up. But let's talk about that the Tinder, what is it, social media, to where social media is now. The only thing that's changed is that more people run to the internet to have hookups, versus when I was coming up, the whole idea was to go out to clubs, was to go out to the grocery stores. What they do, the let out, if you're at a club, you don't go to the club, but you go to the parking lot when everybody's coming out. So I come from that era, right? So a girl would ask you, "Hey, were you inside?" And you would say either yes or no. I would say yeah, and she would say, "Well, I didn't see you inside." I was like, "Oh yeah, I was all over the place." And then you end up talking to her, and then you find out what happens from there. So yeah, that's the only thing I would say that changed. That when I was coming up, it was more so I would meet people in person, versus now everyone wants to swipe left, swipe right, you know. But the relationship aspect is still the same conversation. You see, women are still trying to find out what's the difference between a girlfriend and a wife, or hey, how do I become somebody's wife? How do I add this value? And again, if you read the book Girlfriend versus Wife Duties, I'm what, Kevin Samuels is older than me, but as far as what's on paper and what's been published, I've been at this for 9 years before he even started having a conversation. Now, do I have testimonies? Absolutely. Absolutely. This book has been doing me well. I actually ended up stopped writing in the year 2012 and ventured over into a different industry of writing, which is, the children's books. But, girlfriend versus wife duty has put me on the map, and it's going to be putting me on the map for a long time. Why is this book so relevant? Why is this book so important? Why is this a best-selling book? It's the best answer that you're going to get. If you want to find out, especially if you want to find out from a man, what do you think the difference between a girlfriend and a wife is, especially if your goal is to get with the man to be married, then yeah, you might want to find out what this book is about. I give you an answer in each chapter. The very first chapter, I break down what's the difference, what separates a girlfriend from a wife. That's the first thing I do, because I wanted people to open it up, read the first chapter, shut. Okay, I know exactly who I am now. That's the type of writing material I write. I write to give you an answer.
Gotcha. So it's and that's the type of thing I think that people, both men and women, need a little bit more of a direct response to their questions. And I think we want to sugarcoat everything and it make it sound nice, but then people aren't equipped to deal with the reality of life, and it can be very difficult when your expectations don't meet reality. And
Right.
I do want to definitely ask you about the what you've been doing since then, and with the children's books, but I just had a question about going back to this idea of specifically women and the feminist movement, because for men, our value has always been tied to what we produce. That's always been what it is. But and women are women are born with intrinsic value, and men have to build it. But it seems like we've gotten away from that mentality, and that the same way that that we're all equal, that the way that we look at men is the way that we look at women. And I think, while it's good that women are in a place where they're not they don't have to be dependent on a man, then that shouldn't be what replaces their desire to be in a relationship. They should have and again, generally speaking, if you do desire that, you should desire it based on things outside of what brings your intrinsic value, which would be those things that you've done in your own life, whether it's getting a degree in this or working this job. Those are things that should fulfill you. But your job, again, bring back to what do you bring to me? That doesn't really help me, especially if I am someone who already is successful and I'm going to be taking care of you. Then I don't really care what your bank account looks like, because that's not what
Right.
that doesn't come into play. And I fear that that message is lost, and that people conflate too much. Again, as I was just saying, with women conflating their own career success, and then men conflating their success with, I guess, not having to maybe put in the work and just be like, oh, I can, you're replaceable. I can, there's a million of you, that type of mentality, instead of trying to build something deeper.
Yeah. So the question is, so what's the question? What's the question?
I'm just, I guess
is feminist is the feminist movement working? Is that what the question is?
Well, no, because I would never ask that, because I would already say hell no. But I guess the question is, where or how can women specifically, but again, both, get a better understanding of how to separate what is intrinsic to them and what should be valued to them versus what is valued to somebody else. And while, again, because I say specifically women, because as men, what we value is also, the stuff that tends to bring us that money and success and status. And that tends to be what women are interested in, but it's not always the other way around. And so how can women specifically separate what is intrinsically valuable to them to what is valuable externally to a man that they, or, whoever, that they could offer?
Gotcha. Okay, so here
I gotta ramble a little bit. Sorry.
No, it's fine. This is perfect. And a lot of people will agree with this. You're going to have to take time, and whatever person that you're interested in, that you're trying to have that intrinsic value or just bring value to, you're going to have to talk to that person to find out who they are. Again, this what goes back to the conversation of having communication. You're not going to be able to get away from it, because in order for someone to tell you, hey, what do you bring to the table? You have to be around that person enough to know what you can bring to the table. What is it that they're lacking? Because if I ask you, hey, what do you bring to the table? And you go, well, what is it that you need? And I tell you, and you go, well, I don't have those things. Well, the next person behind you is going to have those things coming up to the table. So when you're talking to a person that you're trying to get be in a relationship with, okay, what do they need? What's extra? What can you provide that's extra into their lives? Because again, if you start, and what's funny, or maybe more so ironic, it's amazing how most men, when they talk to women, they don't throw their education or finances in their face necessarily. Like, I got this and I do that. It's like, when you ask me what I do, I tell you. But with women, they come in head first, right? They go, hey, this is what I got, and it's like, what can you do for me? And he's like, what? Wait, okay, you're not having a conversation with me. So this is where the courtship happens. This is where the dating happens. This is where you get to the point where you're somebody's friend to find out, hey, what does my friend need? And I love my friend so much, I want to propose to my friend, or I want my friend to take my hand in marriage. So that's where that value comes into place. You won't know what you can add to someone's life unless you're around them enough to see what they're lacking.
And to punctuate that, I think the most important thing of what you just said is simply asking that and being aware of the fact that you should be concerned with what do they need and not just what can I get. And again, we're not just talking about women. We the quote unquote high value man is in a position where if he decides he doesn't have to worry about the romantics of it, and if he just wants to play the field, then he can have that and not worry about that. And while again, as you mentioned directly on the back of your book that there's nothing wrong with if women want to do that as well. It seems like society is pushing the idea that women want that more than they really do, or at least for a longer period than they really do. And, no shame on anybody, any girls, you all go through your whole phase, do your thing, have fun. But at the end of the day, most of you are going to end up wanting to be married. And there doesn't seem to be any process of as you put it, that transition from one role to another. I think that's what I wrote down. Yeah. And so I think that, again, to punctuate it, just understanding that even if you do have all of those things, it's the man who's going to be impressive by having a great job and great money. But we know not to lead with that, because then that's all you're going to see out of us. And we don't want that to be our selling point. And, discovery over disclosure. We want you to like us and then find out that we've got money, because then we know that you really like us. I say we, not like I'm a millionaire or anything like that, but just speaking generally. So I think on both sides, regardless of your persuasion or preferences or whatever, it's very easy to identify what you want and what you don't want. And, it may come through some trial and error, but it's not that difficult to determine. What is more difficult, I think, is to figure out how to get that information from somebody else, especially somebody new. And you use the word friend, and I'm I'm curious if I'm curious about that because as somebody who, you know, has been friend zoned just maybe one too many times, I am, you know, curious as to where is the line between being too friendly in the sense where you're not going to be looked at as you know, someone in that sexual realm, and you know, being too overtly sexual where that it's clear that that's just all you're interested in. You know, to just speak from my own personal experience, I'm for right now, I'm not really dating. I haven't really been dating for a while. I was in a short relationship near the beginning of the lockdown, and that was just kind of a mess. That was just, you know, we were all out of our minds, and I'd like to forget about that. But I had been single for a number of years before that, and you know, I had a couple of girls here and there, but I hadn't had a serious relationship since I was back in college. I think there might have been one other, but yeah, but you know, and I always wanted it. I always wanted that serious relationship. I'm 31. I thought I'd have a wife and kids by now. And but again, all of the things that we're talking about with the hypergamy and all of that has really colored, you know, how my perspective on this has changed. And so when you say you want to be, you know, you want to learn about your being a friend and what does your friend need, that sets off a little bit of alarm bells in my head that, like, well, shouldn't I specifically be making sure that, hey, I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm trying to be something that's not your something different, something romantic,
Yeah.
or if it's, you know, just a booty call or something casual, then that. But to be clear about that, how do
Yeah.
you are you using friend in a different way than maybe I'm thinking?
No, no, I'm actually using it in the so I'm using it in the term that in what you're talking about. But again, I come from a place of open communication, right? If you don't communicate with that person like what you're trying to be in their lives and say, well, hey, yeah, I want to be your friend, but can I be a friend with benefits? But you again, I come from a place where I've been talking to grown women who understand what it is. And plus, they were looking at me a certain type of way. So when I would say something to them, it was almost like it was final. It was like an acceptance. Okay, this I'm trying to get with this guy. If this is what he want me to do, then this is where I'm at, right? And I
Oh
learned
yeah, I
that
get that.
in communicating with right. So in communicating with them, you go, well, if he just wants me as a booty call, then that's just what it is. But after a while, I started realizing that, okay, if I'm just having sex with this girl, and I'm making them think that we're going to be this later, I'm damaging them. So how do I not damage this person? Because I do see them as a friend and they do bring great benefit, but how do I not do that? So I started becoming women's friends on the level of, hey, I'm interested in being with you in the long run, and I want you to be my girlfriend, maybe potentially, you know, do an engagement type of deal. But let me find out what's going on with you. Let's hang out. And what I would do is what a lot of men are referring to today is what they call dick discipline. I would see the girl. I know I want to have sex with her, but if I have sex with her, I'm going to damage something in her. I'm going to damage her mental state of saying, I thought this guy was trying to get with me. So as a guy, you have to say, well, I'm gonna make you my friend, and yeah, I'm interested in you. Yeah, we may make out here and there, but I'm not going to take it to the next level. Why? Because I need to commit to myself before I start committing to you. Because if I get you pregnant, right? If I get you pregnant, or even worse, if I catch a disease, then that's where I'm at. I'm stuck. I'm going to be
Mhm.
stuck because maybe I didn't want to marry you. Maybe I just wanted to have sex with you, you know, till the moon come up, you know. But when you, this is so interesting because my life was revolved around this so much. Not to say this in a bragging way, but I was having so much sex that I had created my own condom company. That's how much sex I was having. And I I know, and I didn't want to continue being that guy and making sure or having a chance of getting someone pregnant that I didn't want to be with. So I started pulling back and saying, hey, you know what? Let me start being people's friends. Let me start talking to them, finding out what's going on before I just go ahead first, you know, pun intended, you know. And so that's what you want to do. You want to talk to people. You want to let them know who you are, what you got going on, and what type of friend you're trying to be, and give them the opportunity to accept that. And that's what a lot of people don't do. We don't give another person the chance to accept the fact that, hey, maybe they want to be considered a booty call. Maybe they do just want to be your friend, or maybe they do just want to have, get married to you or stuff like that. But you got to have the conversation.
Yeah. Let me just ask you, how tall are you?
I'm 6'4".
Of course you are. That's why we have slightly different perspectives on this, because you can explain where that goes. So definitely, I guess the advice would be to hit the gym and just work with what I got. That's why I've been developing the personality all these years.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can. But here's one thing I'll tell you, man, because you seem like a very competent communicator. On whatever level a spectrum that you're talking to people, what you're going to find the most, what people are going to gravitate to you the most is your conversation. Can this person make me laugh here and there? Can I hold a conversation about this person? Can I talk about politics? Can I talk about religion? That's the thing that's going to pull you in, because at some point, sex is going to fade out. At some point, don't know what point it is, but at some point, sex is going to fade. Or how about this? How about you're so busy that you're not able to have sex, but you're still with your significant other? Life is gonna do things for you guys that you can't even imagine. And you're going to think that I'm just going to do this every day. I'm going to do that. And you're like, nah, I'm tired today. I don't want to do nothing. I got a migraine headache or something like that. So just keep that conversation going. Keep on trying to make yourself better. And here's one thing I want to say to people too about this book. When you have two people who are trying to be the best version of themselves, they don't have time to cheat. They don't have time to do you wrong. All you're trying to do is become one to make each other better. And that's the sole message I was trying to get across to men and women. When you're absolutely working on yourself, the other person can't help but see that and follow suit.
Very wise. Very wise. Very wise. So I'm just sitting on that, and very, very wise. I did want to ask you about, because you said you wrote this book 9 years ago. So and then you transferred into doing children's books. So what made you do that, and what have you been writing about, and what's that been like?
So 2012, right? My wife, her name is Stephanie, and we were living in Florida. Name. We were being okay. Good deal. Good deal. Stephanies are good women. They're good women. We were being beach bums, and I realized that she was the woman who I had made my friend, right? And we had open communication. And I had a conversation with her one day. I said, "Hey, do you want to get married?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "How many kids do you want?" She said, "Well, as many as my body, would allow." So I said, "All right." So she asked me the same thing, and I said, "Yeah, I want to get married. I want to have about 2 kids." So from that conversation, I said, "You know what, Stephanie's the one, but I got to make sure it's the right time to make this proposal." So I ended up waiting maybe a year and a half before we actually became like boyfriend and girlfriend. And then another 6 months, I had got engaged to her. And what made me get into the children's book was when she had got pregnant and I seen our daughter come out, the inspiration to be a kid again, it hit me. I realized I was so busy trying to be an adult. I'm so busy trying to be self-help guy, so busy trying to be with this woman and, trying to show my peers that I'm better than them. And I said, I missed out on all this fun. So when I see the baby come out, I go, oh, I know what to do. I know what to write about. I found my inspiration. I found my happiness. I found my true happiness. So I ended up writing a 10-book children's series the night my daughter was born. I jotted it down. I had the idea for it. And when she was about 6 to 7 months old, I moved from Florida to Arkansas in the year 2015, going into 2016. And I had approached Walmart and said, "Hey, I got this children's book series that I wrote. How do I get this book in here?" They gave me a deal, and I've been doing business with Walmart for the past 6 years. And the children's books, out of all of my books, have been my daughter's first book super succeeded what I did my entire life, right? Why? Why is that? It's because people would much rather gravitate to their kids having fun, and where is fun and love? versus, how do I get with this man? How do I get this woman? Type of deal. So the children's books came into play because of the inspiration of my daughter. I did not want to be the parent that was all about do this and do that. I want to have fun. Look at my background. This background, my daughter, we did this, just splash paint, right? I just didn't, I don't want to care, right? I don't want to care. I don't want to
I
take
couldn't tell
life
if it was
serious.
her, if it was a Jackson Pollock. Beautiful.
No, it's so the books are they're titled after her. It's called the Anaya's Adventure series, and it's all about fun. And the main gist of all the stories wraps around, you can go out into the world, you can have a lot of fun, but always remember, you're able to come back home to mom and dad whenever you want to.
That's a powerful message. And even, even if it's not the case in an individual child's life, I think the fact that you're writing about that and making that something that child who doesn't have that in their real life can see, it's something that can what's the word? I guess combat the subconscious or unconscious imprinting of what they're seeing that's not so great. And so you've done you did all 10 books in that first night.
So yeah, in the first night, I jotted them all down. We do our own illustrations. We gave her a publishing company called babyauthors.com. So the money goes to her savings account. Basically all the profit goes to her savings account. We're on book number 6 now. I think I may take a break. I already have the rest of the books ready, but I may take a break at 6 because what we were doing, we were each year the character will grow up with her. So she's 6 years old now. So if you look at the book covers, you'll see when she was like 6 months to 6 years old type of deal. But what we're into now is why I'm taking a break. We're into merchandise, and we just came out with a matching card game. So I'm more so on the level, I'm trying to leverage the licensing aspect of, hey, this is what Anaya's Adventures is, pay me, type of deal.
Yeah. Cool.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I gotta be honest. I would love to have you back just to talk about that. So I don't want to get too into that because I would love to come back and really explore that, and especially because of the difference in content matter. I'd love for people who are more likely to be interested in that material, maybe not tie it to the stuff we've been talking about so far.
Right.
But absolutely, that's beautiful. And how old is your daughter now?
She's 6 years old.
She's 6 now. Awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at these notes I've taken here that we've through the conversation. And from my first question, what gives you the right, is it sounds like a lot of trial and error, as well as a lot of direct research. And so you've not only lived this life where you've and been in different relationships and experienced different different types of women and different from all walks of life, I assume, and but you also sought out answers for these things specifically from people you trust. And and based on just the testimonials from the back of the book, it seems like you did a pretty good job, especially if 9 years later it's still doing so well. And you said it's only 6 chapters?
Yep, only 6 chapters. And I made it short because I wanted it to be a conversation, just like we're having right now. I wanted it to be a conversation. I didn't want it to feel like you're just reading a book. I wanted you to hear me talking to you.
So how many pages is it?
It's about 75 pages.
Oh wow!
About 75 pages. It's more so. It'd be more so considered like a spark note. It's like something that you already know that you keep on forgetting about. Like, you know what? He's right. I do forget to be this type of person, or whatever the case may be.
And those are especially, I started this podcast because I had gotten away from just reading in general, As I tell in every episode, when I was a kid, I used to love reading. And then as school started and they would assign me this, that, and the other, and you got to read 100 pages. And I was just never a good student and I was rebellious. And then, going all the way through college. And then by the time I got out, there's podcasting and YouTube. And, that's just how I get most of my information now. But the books like that, which are short and to the point, are exactly the type of things that would speak to me. Off the top of my head, Sam Harris is an author who, I don't follow him as much where he is today, but his work that he's done is some of the greatest stuff. I'm actually an atheist, and he helped me, go from, I grew up Catholic, and then I went through, my journey to atheism, and I became one of those stereotypical, just angry atheists, militant atheist kind of dudes. And it was some of Sam Harris's work, which are, again, like 70, 90 page things. One is called Waking Up, A Guide to Spirituality Without Religion. And it was just like, that's what I need. That's what I need. Because I'm not the type of atheist who says, I'm sure there's no God. I'm not convinced that there is anything else, but I'm open to it. And I admit that I don't know. And so, and as that person, I definitely have had those spiritual experiences. And so having a book like that was short, concise, to the point, and just telling me exactly what I need to know, I think we need more of them. We need more like that. It's not just children's books that need to be short. Adults don't have, especially in this day and age, we just don't have the attention span anymore.
Right.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, I mean, yeah, we've been going for about an hour, and like I said, I would love to dive into the whole children's book thing in an entirely other discussion. Thank you so much for coming on. If there is, I'm going to give you the floor. If there's anything you want to plug, books, socials, websites, please, the floor is yours.
Awesome. My name is Darshaun McAway. Go check out darshaunmcaway.com. You'll find a lot of interesting things on that website, such as I have my own cologne. I have best-selling books. I have a podcast as well where I speak to other authors, writers, and illustrators about what they're doing to market their book. Trust me, once you look up my name, you're going to go down a rabbit hole. Just don't get lost.
Awesome. Darshaun McAway, everybody, thank you so much for coming on. This was a great conversation. I really, it really helped put a lot of things into perspective for me, because I definitely, the whole like blue pill, red pill, manosphere, that kind of stuff. I had discovered it right after that super failed relationship at the beginning of lockdown. And as a sensitive dude who's not necessarily the biggest piece of eye candy, it was it was really important information for me to see. Oh, okay, this is how my actions are being perceived by women in general, and the things that you're saying are a lot of them are very much in line with what I've learned. That's allowed me to be comfortable with just, doing my own thing and that. And also kind of, answering some of the questions I had specifically about, like, your use of the word friend, and that you don't have to come on so strong as to be like, hey, baby, I don't need no friends. You're like that. And especially, again, for somebody like me who doesn't necessarily have the physical stature that I have women throwing themselves at me. It just doesn't happen when you're my height. I mean, live with it. So I want to thank you for coming on, and this, again, a great conversation. And I definitely I don't want to keep saying on every episode that I'm going to check out people's books, because I'm not going to check them all out, but I am definitely going to read your book. I implore everybody else to do the same. Again, that is Girlfriend versus Wife Duties by Darshaun McAway. Thank you so much for coming on, and we will see you next time to talk about your children's books.
No problem. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right. Take care. Can you see this? What the God? These are all the notes I took throughout that. That was really cool. Once again, the mentality that I had going in was not correct. I thought it was going to be a very cheeky, not arrogant, but contentious conversation where I thought, I might, even having the views that I have, I might have to be like, hey, wait a minute, let's be fair to women and let's be fair to the men who this, that, or the other. And it was the complete opposite. That was like, it was like, I don't know. I'm trying to compare it to, again, if you're not familiar with Kevin Samuels, again, he's got that a call-in show, and he's gotten popular for, kind of owning the modern woman who wants it all and brings nothing to the table. But again, there's a little bit of shock value and underhanded, like, men looking in at women, getting owned, that kind of thing. And again, I watch this stuff. I enjoy it. I'm not gonna say that I don't, but I'm not like, all over it because, like, yeah, go get there. It's just interesting to see how average women who are just calling into this show, what do they think? And while that show has made its name being that contentious thing and having that type of feel, Darshaun definitely would, if he had the same type of show. I think women would like it even more than Kevin Samuels, because he's got a much more approachable way about his message and just in general about himself. It's very clear that he's not trying to push anything on anybody. He's not trying to say that he's right and you're wrong. It's clear that he's genuinely trying to use his experiences to help the rest of us. And I definitely appreciate that. As I got into a little bit in the conversation, I've always been, what would be considered as the typical nice, sensitive guy that, you think of as a friend, but, oh, you're like a brother, and blah, 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 blah. And then also, again, being a short guy, whether you want to admit or not that has a big a factor to do with women, fuck off. That it has a lot to do. If I was a foot taller, then I would have very different experiences. But it's up to me not to be salty about it. Like, that's just, the way that it is. And it's not women's fault for being attracted to tall, men. And just like there's nothing that I should be ashamed of for being attracted to, fit women who have curves and whatever. But all that being said, what it comes down to is, we're all just trying to find our way. We're all just trying to find that someone. And I think personally, I spent a little bit too much time and energy on that, especially considering I wasn't really spending that time with women as much. I do all right. But it's not, I'm not, I would say it's not something regular that happens in my life. And I haven't had a serious relationship since I was in college 10 years ago. But, and I say it's not from, it isn't from lack of trying. If I wanted to get into relationships, there are ways that I could have I made conscious decisions knowing that, okay, this is going to not, this isn't going to go forward from here, or I was the one who would say, I'm just not interested. That was mostly the case because of what I saw in people. And I just like, I see where this is going. This isn't either I'm not healthy when I wasn't, or you're not healthy, and I just wasn't interested. I saw what bad relationships could be. And I was very clear that I would rather not be in a relationship than be in a bad relationship. And I don't know how common that is. I think a lot of people do understand that. And I think if you say that to the average person, they would agree. But I think people get lonely and people get comfortable in relationships, and they find themselves in, these long relationships that are toxic, but they're comfortable, or they jump from relationship to relationship just because they don't know how to be alone. And I think the biggest change for me was that, okay, as a short guy who's got a great personality and not too much money, then I have to play up that personality and have a little bit more money to offer. And physically, I definitely need to hit the gym. And I'm just really not interested in doing that right now. So if that means that I'm not getting too much female attention, then I'm okay with that, because it's not that I'm trying and being rejected. I'm just focusing on other things. And when I do decide that I want to change that up, and again, as Darshaun quotes it in his book, transition from the bachelor to the boyfriend or the husband, then I can make those changes at that point. And there's no need for me to feel now that I'm failing at anything, because I'm not. I'm doing better than I have in so long. I'm happy at my job. I finally got the podcast going. Hair's growing out. Morty back there is alive and well. Things are going well. I've got, this condo that I'm living in now is I've only lived here for a year. Before that, I was living in some old a bedroom in some old lady's house that she was renting out, because the place I was living before that didn't like that I had Morty, and they kicked us out. And then I only had a couple of weeks to find a place, and a bunch of places fell through. And so I ended up in this situation where, it was not the worst thing ever, but as a 30-year-old man, you don't want to have your life restricted to an old woman's bedroom. And then especially because of the circumstances with the lockdown and everything, I wasn't able to have guests and everything. And so I'm doing better than I have in so very long, but I have no girlfriend. I have no prospects, but I'm okay with that. And if that's where you are, then you can be okay with that too. And it doesn't have to be a permanent situation. You don't have to be somebody who says, okay, I'm giving up on this, I'm never doing it again. You can just live your life and let meeting people and developing yourself be part of the journey. I don't remember if Darshaun specifically said it on the recording or if he said it afterwards, but he mentioned something about respecting the time that we have on Earth. And if you spend that time alone but miserable, when you could be when you're going to be alone anyway, and you could be enjoying yourself, well, then what kind of choice is that? It's obvious to learn how to be happy with yourself, so that when that person, not only that you're happy being alone, but when that person does come along, you are somebody who is healthy enough to take that on and to make the most of it. I definitely the other thing would be other than that, I like I said, I definitely am super interested in how someone with Darshaun's mindset, what that children's book, what kind of messages that would be, and how he is choosing what messages he's choosing to bestow upon children, and what way he's doing that. I would be very interested. I haven't read a kid's book since I was a kid. So I don't know what is in kids' books. And obviously it's not kids who write kids' books. And there is obviously a giant market. So there's just a lot I don't know about that. And sounds like he'd be a great person to talk to with already 10 books in the series. Walmart deal, they have a lot of books, but it's not a Barnes & Noble. So they don't take just anybody. So thank you again for tuning in for another episode of the I Didn't Read Your Book podcast. Thank you again to Darshaun McAway and his book, Girlfriend versus Wife Duties. All his links for socials and his websites and his books and everything like that will be linked down below. Please do go check out that book. It's only 6 chapters. He said it's like 70 pages. You can read that in an afternoon. And it sounds like, again, I'm going to stop telling everybody that I'm going to read their book. Everybody, every time I've said it, I have meant it. But just because I've meant it in the moment, I'm probably not going to read a lot of these books. So I'm going to stop doing that. But I definitely am going to read this one. But because it's short, not, if it was long, even on the same topic, I probably still wouldn't have read it. I would just wait for the YouTube version or something. But that this is definitely something I want to see what he says. It's the type of information that I would be looking for anyway. So it's right up my alley. And I think it's information that we all should be aware of. Disagree, agree, be aware of. This is what people are thinking. This is what the other side is thinking. I think that's a big thing too, that, as a man, I might be very familiar with the way men think about things. But what I had realized over the last year or so is that I had no clue about how women see things. And from watching these types of Kevin Samuels-esque content, I'm seeing that it's also that women don't understand what men go through. And to come back full circle, the biggest thing that Darshaun was talking about was communication. So if we can communicate better and more effectively, then all this becomes less and less and less of a problem. So thank you again to Darshaun. Girlfriend versus Wife Duties, available now and has been for the last 10 years. Check down below. Please do me a favor, help out the algorithm, give it a like, make sure you're subscribed, ring the bell, just comment something, comment Morty is asleep, something. Just help me out with the algorithm. I really appreciate it. I not only want to get my face out there to everybody else, but people like Darshaun and all the other authors I've had on so far and will have on. I really want them to be able, the ones to be able to get that exposure. So it's not just for me, it is for them. Thank you again. I am Lutch. Don't forget, you can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at IDRYB Lutch. That's IDRYB LUTCH, IDRYB Lutch. Again, this is I Didn't Read Your Book. Take care. We'll see you in the next one.